Well, good morning again, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation on narrative reporting using IBM's best-in-class tool, Cognos Disclosure Management. My name is Michael Peterson. I'm a Solution Sales Specialist here at eCapital Advisors, and I'll be walking you through some of the challenges organizations are facing today with reporting, and then Andrew Von Eschen will be doing a demo for you in just a little bit. So, thank you again for joining us, and we've been hearing a lot from our customers that there's a lack of confidence in reports and data. There's inconsistencies and inaccuracies of the data as a result of many people handling the information and the amount of time it takes to compile data from the many sources that they have. This all leads to them having no time for analysis. So what struggles are our customers facing specifically? Well, compiling data and reports takes a long time to complete. It's a manual process to identify and organize the data with limited visibility into the progress of those reports. Also, organizations are often highly paying intelligent people to do these low-value, time-consuming tasks. Managing data sources is also a challenge. It's an error-prone activity from repeating over and over and rekeying into the forms and reports. And it's also the inability to easily compare reporting versions. And finally, they also say that there's incomplete or inaccurate information. People are known to make mistakes. There's little or no security controls, audit trails, or transparency. So oftentimes, manual processes lead to the decisions that are made on incorrect data. The amount of time spent on manual processes leads, as I said before, little or no time to perform analysis and improve the performance of the organization. So in today's world, decisions cannot be made from numbers alone. Organizations need to combine all forms of data, including financial, operational, and statistical data, so that key personnel can see the logic behind those numbers that is provided through a narrative analysis of that data. CDM is able to take that validated data from multiple sources and combine it with your narrative analysis. CDM also allows you to combine data from virtually unlimited data types and sources. It's real-time. It has automatic updates as changes are made to those data sources. It also allows for collaboration from all areas of the company, and it uses all of the Microsoft Office tools you are already familiar with. Today's forward-thinking companies are looking at their report production management cycle to see how they can improve it. CDM is a solution that allows them to automate any and all of their recurring multi-author reports and presentations. The results? Decrease in costs, empowering specialists within their organization to own their own sections of the report, and an increasing reporting speeds, which also reduces errors. So CDM takes the data collected from those various sources and allows multiple users to provide input, make changes, and improve the results in a secure tool. The resulting data and analysis can be distributed in multiple formats for internal and external reporting. That's shown on this slide, moving from the left to the right, with collecting, then collaborating and editing and improving upon all of the data that's collected and reporting in different sources, in different output tools. For those of you who are already leveraging business intelligence through IBM's TM1 and BI products, CDM allows you to readily combine the data and insight from these tools, allowing for better analysis and decision-making. Combining these allows for a single, reliable reporting and analysis tool, which can show you the commonality of your various data. CDM allows you to also automate once time-consuming manual processes into a standard, fast, and efficient process by leveraging workflow while giving better insight into progress made, which in turn then speeds up data consensus, allowing for faster decision-making and action. Each object inside the report can be secured to an individual or a group. If an update needs to be made, a user must check it out before updating. Once the update is complete, the user will need to check it back in, and you can make audit changes made by time and person to see what's happened. What are the key functions found in the CDM tool? Security. It allows you to maintain control of the data. Workflow. It improves the process by assigning owners to different tasks. Combines data from the many different data sources. It allows you to use different objects from familiar sources such as Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. Variables. These allow you to replace numeric and textual information that constantly needs to be updated. Has report validation rules, which can further help ensure data validity. And then roll forward. It's taking a snapshot view of an existing report and roll it forward to the next time period. So what does narrative reporting with CDM provide for your organization? It puts time back in your hands by driving efficiency and eliminating error-prone manual processes, which allows you more time for analysis and action. It puts you in control by easily gathering data from multiple sources in a scalable, secure, and collaborative environment. And it gives you confidence by reducing the risk of error through improved controls and governance. So I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Andrew Von Eschen, Solution Sales Specialist. He will give us a brief look at Cognos Disclosure Management.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michael. So I'm going to jump in here, guys, and really kind of give you a lay of the land of what Cognos Disclosure Management is. So as Michael alluded to, right, really what Cognos Disclosure Management is, so I'm going to generate this report just to kind of share with you and show you what these reports look like. So as he was talking about, you know, a lot of these tedious, time-consuming reports, think of your monthly board books, right, things you got to prepare for senior management, if it's in the Office of Finance, if it's, you know, outside of the Office of Finance, it could be things inside of HR, sales, you know, monthly reports where you're providing some textual information, some, you know, understanding of why did we miss or what caused the miss. So I'm going to open this up just as a Word template to kind of share with you what these CDM reports look like, and then I'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of what's going on behind the scenes. But this example we're looking at is more of a monthly budget or monthly board book, right? It's something that financial analysts or the FP&A team is going out, they're preparing once a month, they spend a lot of time, you know, days, weeks, preparing these books, and it's got a lot of information that can very easily be automated and streamlined to, you know, eliminate some of that redundancy, repetitiveness for those users. So as I look here, you know, you'll see some items that have been bolded out, right? So January, that's been bolded as I get down to kind of a financial overview. The key thing here that we might want to talk about is, you know, a lot of these different time periods, the unfavorables, right, the percentages, the actual values that we're looking at, this can all be automated through Cognos Disclosure Management. And I'll spend a little bit more time talking about how that works, but what that really is doing for your FP&A team or your analysts or people that are compiling these different presentations or books or 10Ks or Qs, right, is it's automating that number. It's saying, hey, anywhere that I'm looking at, you know, the total revenue amount, actually go out and replace that. So I don't have to do a copy-paste or find-replace 15 times throughout the document. I simply just have to refresh it in the background, and it flows to each of these corresponding areas. Not only can I have kind of that textual information, I can also have all of my different tables, right? So trying to get those inline tables has always been a struggle, especially in Microsoft Word, right, to keep things consistent, have it so it holds the formatting that I need and want. So we can actually take a lot of the different elements from, you know, Excel and actually embed these charts into our Word doc or a PowerPoint deck to keep that consistency and that formatting we're looking for. So I've just got a quick view here where I'm able to actually see all of that information, my different actuals, my full P&L all the way down for my time period. All right, I can scroll down to the next page where I've got another example of a chart as well as some full analysis or commentary that coincides with this month's book and what actually happened, right? So we've got a lot of different components that are going on, a lot of different texts that we're seeing, right? It's something that, hey, we want to be able to send this out to our end users, so, or you know, internal team or external team and CFO, senior management, they want to be able to receive that. So how do we actually build out this report, and what does CDM do for us as an end user, as a team? So kind of a quick lay of the land here is I'm looking at my report, and what I have is a group of objects, right? You can kind of see all the different names. It looks like I've got some Word. That is Word, right? That is PowerPoint. That is Excel. So I've got a list of different objects that I'm using to create this monthly board book. Now, I'm simply just going to come into my business overview here, and I can actually kind of see that structure that I've created where I'm housing different objects. I'm going to double-click on my income statement and actually take a look at this object. Now, this looks very familiar. It looks very similar to Microsoft Excel, but you're wondering, hey, Andrew, where are the tabs at the top? I'm not seeing the ribbons. Well, I can simply come to the bottom right here and expose those out, and I'm actually living and working in my local Excel instance, right? So for all of you guys out there who are using Excel and PowerPoint, Word on a day-to-day basis, this just becomes a nice wrapper on top of that to provide some structure for how you want to interact with your data and your board books, things like that. Provide a little bit more of that ability to say, hey, you've got access to certain objects. Here's how you work with them. Now, I need to make some updates to this object as a whole. You know, we're not actually quite ready to publish out our 2015 actual, so I want to use my get out of jail free card. So I'm going to come up to the top here, and I'm going to check this data out. So it's going to enable me to actually come in and start providing the ability to provide some text here, right? So I'm just going to provide my unaudited get out of jail free card as we're going through the process of closing the books. The other thing that I want to point out is kind of where this data is coming from, right? I'm referencing this data back to a database tab. And why that's important is that database tab is being derived from my local data source. In this example, it's a TM1 cube. But if I kick over to that tab, what you'll see is this data looks very familiar to a cube view, right? Where I can see my accounts running down the side. I can see my months, my time periods along the top. I can't do anything with this data. I can't cut it. I can't delete it. I can't provide any numeric fields or updates to it. This is a static copy from the database. So it provides that consistency that comes directly from my data source to ensure that this report is valid and the data is coming through cannot be manipulated or updated, right? Now, the other thing that we talked about and Michael talked a little bit about is what's called variables. And where those are key and what I want to highlight with those is it's the ability to take a lot of that information that you see the redundancies on, right? The variances, the variance percentages, the textual information that coincides, the favorable and unfavorable of all those different variances to provide that, hey, we missed or we're greater than or less than. I can simply create a variable that I can reference throughout my report that does a lot of that automation for me. So I don't have to go out, as I said before, and do the copy-paste of that detail, right? I can simply just build a quick variable for it, reference it in on my actual narrative inside of my report, and let this do the heavy lifting for me, that find replace. So I can simply see, you know, my percent variables, a lot of this is coming either from my display, my database. It could be a calculated field. So a lot of these unfavorables, it's actually just an if-then statement, right? If my variance is greater than 0, it's favorable. If it's not, make it unfavorable. Pretty straightforward, pretty simplistic. It's going to take care of a lot of the find replace redundancies. Now, I made a quick update here on my display where I added in some textual updates that get out of jail free card. I simply want to check this back in and enable the rest of my team to kind of see that info. So I'm going to make a quick save of it. I'm going to come back in and check in my object. Now, to the extent that you want your users to have certain access to you know, each of these objects or the report as a whole, right? Maybe I've made a quick change and I just want to be able to see when that change was made or who made it. I have full audit built in as part of the tool. So I can simply come up and view my audit trail to see what updates have been made, who made them, when they were made, right? I can see this 11/16 time stamped on that object, what the ID of the user was, who they were, and what the actual change was. So this is just a great feature of the tool, is a built-in audit to know kind of who's been making tweaks, where are they making tweaks, what time, what, you know, capacity they were making those tweaks, which is great. Now, the other thing I really quickly want to do is I made some changes here, but, you know, what if we're going through a month-end close or we're rerunning some of our actuals or budgets? I want to simply be able to take kind of that initial view that I saw and compare that with, you know, maybe it's my version 2, right? As we hear from a lot of our customers, you know, as you go through the iterations of closing out these monthly books or these board books, you might have multiple iterations of it and you want to do some comparisons to see how, you know, a change in our OpEx is going to affect the rest of our report, or where do I need to make these changes, or what the changes were. So I'm going to simply come into a quick view of my cube, and I'm just going to update my budget numbers. Now this, you know, probably isn't super applicable since it's budget, but think of it if it was actuals and we're just doing a data refresh. I just want to highlight the ability for this to come through real time and see the comparison. So I'm going to make a quick tweak here. I'm going to do just a refresh of my data underneath, right, just to make sure that I'm grabbing everything, right? So I'm just simply refreshing my data and my information. I'm going to quickly come up and just regenerate that report. So I'll generate it out as a Word report again, but you notice I also have the ability to do it in Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. I can do HTML. I can do kind of external reporting as well. XBRL, so another way we can do that. I'm going to simply generate this out, and while this is generating, I'm going to open this up, and we're going to see those changes that I made, right? So as I come in, and I'll just quickly go through kind of the high-level view where I can see that unaudited is now flowed through. But I want to know what that impact of my budget did, right, versus that initial run that I had. So I can very quickly come up and do a comparison of that information to say, hey, let's do a comparison between the view I'm looking at and that initial pass that I made. So I've got the initial pass saved out. Just to kind of show you very quickly how I can do that. But I'm simply going to open this up, and now it's going to tell me all of the updates that were made, right? So along the left-hand side, I can see all of them. I'm going to close this up just so I can make this nice and clean. But it enables me to quickly come in and see all the changes that I've made inside this doc, right? So I can see here's some updates that were made to my percentages, my actual values. I can see that the unaudited is prevalent, right? So this tool very quickly enables me to see those iterations on my document as I'm working forward. It shows me all of the impacts and the changes real time, right? So all I had to do was simply click a refresh of the data, I republish it out, I did a quick comparison, and now I can see exactly what's happened in those updates that have occurred. That's pretty powerful, right? I didn't have to go through and make tweaks to all of the variables and all the information on my, you know, my actuals, my budgets to see that. The tool just inherently did it because I've built out the logic for it. Now, the other thing that I really want to highlight is, you know, I've kind of been tweaking with this a little bit more on a Word doc perspective, but there's always the ability to generate this out in different formats, right? So I'm just going to simply rerun this, and I'm going to rerun this in a PowerPoint format just to show kind of how this report can have multiple outputs and different looks and feels, right? So I've been using a Word up to this point. I'm just going to generate this out as a PowerPoint. While this is generating out, you know, there'll be a little bit different look and feel where I'll have some new information. It won't be the same as what I saw. So inside of this one deck or this one report, right, I could have multiple output views and different objects that interact in different means, right? So I can scroll down and see here's my revenue by state. I can see my overall chart showing my actual, my budget, you know, some more textual information, and then I can see kind of that overview page that we saw before, right? Similar to what I saw in the Word document that I produced, but now I can see this in a PowerPoint. So very powerful to be able to have these objects interact in different ways, shapes, and forms. Now, the other thing that we talked a little bit about was the ability to control kind of how users interact with this, provide more of that workflow setting to it. So if I simply want to take and create a workflow for my report, right, maybe it's on the highlights piece, I just want to quickly see this, I can jump down and do a quick edit of my workflow where I can actually see kind of the steps in the process from, you know, the initial pass when we close out the month to, you know, getting approval for all the commentary, all the changes that we've made, all the way out to the final run, right? So I can build out a workflow where I can have my contributors, my reviewers, controllers, auditors, approvers, right? Very simplistic, but I can apply this to individual users or groups of users. So to the extent that you want to have different members of your team actually interacting with this data and this information, right, you can secure them to have access to only certain parts of it or the process, certain objects inside of the report. We can lock that all down, which is great. The last piece I wanted to share with you before we kind of turn it back over for some Q&A is the ability to roll these reports forward. So at this point, I've been looking at this information just in a January setting, right, where I'm looking at it on a month-to-month. But what happens when we get to February, right? I want to take this and roll everything forward to a February setting. So I'm going to come into my report. come on. Right, where I can see my different reports, and I'm going to simply just right-click on the report that I've been working with, and I'm just going to perform a roll forward. And what that enables me to do is to actually say, what's the new report, right? So maybe it's my Feb, SmartCo Feb 2015, right? I can choose where this folder or where this report's going to reside. The next thing I can actually do is define some variables. So if I've got some variables that it's been referencing back to my cube, right, where maybe I just want to say, hey, end user, provide the new month that you want to run this for, and let it do all the heavy lifting. So not Rev, it should be Feb. If I could spell correct, that'd be great. So I'm going to provide my current month of February. I'm going to come to next. I'm just going to enable the tool to actually go out and do a quick update and actually grab that February data for me, so I don't have to go back and replace all that information. So now it's created a February report inside of here, right, that SmartCo Feb. Maybe I want to come back and just simply run that new SmartCo Feb. So I can double click on that. And what I'll notice, if I jump back into my income statement tab, right, everything is rolled forward to February. So now I can see that month is updated. All my data has been updated to that. Everything in that database tab is now displaying February instead of January, right? Very, very powerful. I didn't have to go through the process of updating all that information manually. I just simply used a roll forward to perform that change for me.
All right. Well, thank you. That wraps up Andrew's demo of Cognos Disclosure Management. At this time, we'll open up the phone lines for any questions you may have regarding CDM. All right, it doesn't seem like there's any questions today. I did want to mention that we will be having a public training class on Cognos Disclosure Management in Q2 of this year. So if you're interested in taking a training class on it, please reach out to us. Then in addition, here's some contact information for you. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation or just some more information, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to get that to you. So we'll just leave this screen up for a minute or two here so you have time to get that information. And if there aren't any questions that have popped up, we would like to thank you again for your time today. And join us again. We'll be doing another webinar series, I believe, next Friday. And coming up, and we also have a workshop on cloud and big data analytics on March 16th. So if you need information about that and like to join us for that workshop, which will be held here in our offices, again, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to get you information on that. Thanks again, everybody.